In general, there are a lot of different enemies in the world of Super Mario. A surprising amount actually. And if that wasn't enough, there are also a million different types of the same enemy we encounter in our adventures. So after covering a lot of them in the Evolution of videos, it's about time to do a top 5 video on some of them to figure out which types of them are my favorites. And today we will be doing this with another classic enemy, the Piranha plant, a foe that Mario encountered ever since his very first adventure in 1985. So let's dive right in. Number 5. Now to start off this list, we will look at an enemy that is 100% part of the Piranha plant family, but a lot of people just don't know about it. I mean, I can't blame them. The whole thing also looks completely different from a normal Piranha plant we see in almost every Super Mario game. It is shockingly different. Now, who am I talking about? Well, the Nipper, of course, which first appeared in Super Mario Bros. 3 in 1988. In this game, they either patrol an area or wait in place. And both of them jump up towards you as soon as you dare to pass over them. Now, this can already be incredibly dangerous for any player that tries to get past them, since they won't sit still when you do so. But it gets even worse, because the walking ones are harder to land on safely, which usually isn't a good idea anyway, since they will jump and face up as soon as you try to do this, which could result in your end, as you can imagine. The only way you can really beat them is by using invincibility, fireballs, hammers, or any other type of power-up seen in the game. Those usually do the trick. Now the reason why I like them so much is because they seem incredibly harmless and weak, but are actually very dangerous. Mostly because of the hopping around and sudden as well as unexpected jumping they do when you try to get over them. They can do it so fast, and I think not a single person expected those little white things to be so eager to attack you. And that's not where it ends, because there's also a fire-breathing variant seen in the game, being found at the very end of it all in World 7-8, which is quite a clever trick from Nintendo, because no one expected something like that, especially so late in the game and only once. It would have been cool to see these more though, but that didn't happen. So as you can see, these little guys are more surprising than you would ever think, and in later games this trend would continue. Especially in the Yoshi Island games, they're a lot of fun, but there are still better types out there. Number 4. As we've seen so far, the Piranha plants aren't necessarily very predictable creatures. Some types of them are extremely different compared to the OG one. And for our next one, we will be looking at a variation that looks like all the others, but is actually surprisingly different. The Poison Piranha plant. These are found in the Wooded Kingdom, Metro Kingdom, and Dark Side worlds from Super Mario Odyssey. Now, defeating them isn't too hard, but dealing with their attacks is a way bigger challenge, because they constantly shoot poison at you, and when that stuff hits the ground, it will cover quite a big area, and coming into contact with it will end badly, to say the least. In general, it reminds me a lot of the Piranha plants seen in Super Mario Sunshine. You know, the ones that shoot goop and stuff at you? However, these ones are even better in my opinion, since this purple stuff at least deals damage, instead of just annoying you, spawning enemies, and letting you fall occasionally. It's like an improved version of the older stuff seen in that game. But it gets even better, because there's also a huge version of them seen in Super Mario Odyssey. These have the same tactics, but are just tougher and shoot bigger balls of poison, making them some sort of ultimate challenge version of the normal one. Personally, I like them. They are an improved version of the ones seen in Super Mario Sunshine, which is also one of my favorite games ever made, so it's pretty dope. Number 3. Now our next enemy is actually quite similar to our last. Well, it at least seems like that for a lot of people. But its attacks have a completely different effect. A way better one. Now, who am I talking about? Well, the inky Piranha plants, of course. These mostly appear in underground levels of Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS, and they just spit ink out of their mouth, which is a bit similar to our previous one. However, instead of just leaving it on the ground, it will actually cover the screen, like a blooper does in Mario Kart games. As you can imagine, when this ink stuff is on your screen, you can't see very well and might even run into an enemy or a pit. So just like in the Mario Kart series, this stuff can be extremely effective. Maybe even more so, to be honest. Just think about it. In Mario games, you usually have a limited amount of lives, and one wrong jump could even be your end. Luckily enough though, there's a way to get rid of it. Just blow into the microphone. This way the ink will be blown right off your screen. Which is cool and creative. It's one of those 3D features that's rarely used and can sometimes even be annoying to you. However, in this case, it's quite cool actually. I like it at least. And for once, Nintendo does use one of their console's built-in features. Which can't always be said, because they completely ignored the 3D feature of the 3DS in about, 90% of the games they made? So, yeah. But hey, this is a good one. Number 2. Alright. Enough piranha plants that fire garbage at you. We have seen enough of those by now. Luckily enough, our next one is completely different, while still offering a significant challenge to us, the players. Now, which enemy could this be? Most piranha plants fire something, right? Well, yes, but this isn't the case when it comes to the jumping piranha plants. These terrible creatures usually live in warp pipes, but some can be found hiding in the bushes, and their propeller-like stems allow them to fly up quickly and descend slowly back in. And as you can imagine, getting in their way will end badly since they will deal damage. The only thing you could do is avoid them, or doing the classic spin jump on top of them. Of course, you could also use power-ups, but that's almost always an option. But as you can see, these planty boys had some interesting tricks up their sleeve, which many didn't see coming. Normally they can be found in pipes, but they slowly pop up and go down again, always staying attached to it. However, here they can all of a sudden shoot up like a maniac and take you out instantly if you aren't lucky. It's a great example of a trap enemy that can also appear in unexpected places, making it even more effective. When it comes to the piranha plants, this is for sure the version that pulls off the trap enemy role the best. It's fast, sudden, and most people just don't expect it, especially the ones that are waiting in the bushes to strike. So I'm impressed. And also quite glad, to be honest, that Nintendo included it in Super Mario World and some other titles. Not a whole lot of them, but hey, at least they are seen in the first and second Super Mario Maker game, where we can mess around with them in any way imaginable, which is pretty neat. Number 1. Now for our last planty boy, we will actually be looking at a huge one. The biggest on the entire list, by far. And that's because it's not an enemy. Oh no, it falls in a completely different category. And that's because it's actually a boss and not just some normie foe. And the big bad guy that made it to the number 1 spot is the Dino Piranha, which is a large and quite famous boss seen in Super Mario Galaxy games. But Wily, why is it not PD Piranha? I already covered him enough in recent videos, and we haven't seen him in ages, to be honest. So he already got enough love for now. Time to give somebody else the spotlight. Now let's continue, darn it. Now it's found inside an egg, and it becomes cracked when you crash into it after being shot from a launch star. Which actually tends to happen a lot in the Super Mario Galaxy games. For some reason. And that's how every fight with him starts. It then begins to slowly move around the planet from inside the egg, and when you spin the large ball on the end of its tail again, it breaks the whole shell, and the fight actually begins. He will start to run around the planet like crazy, attempting to hit you. And all you have to do is run behind the beast and star spin at its tail again, which slings it away and ends up hitting him in the head. Hard. And that's how you deal damage to him. And all of this will make it even more angry. And eventually its head will turn bright red, after which he will become even faster than before. But then, after one more hit, it falls to the ground and is finally defeated. Clearly quite a hectic and crazy fight, especially since you're basically beating up a newborn baby that you disturbed. But overall, it's quite a fun fight, because hitting the tail feels good. It has a very nice springiness to it all that is very satisfying. Aside from that, it uses the whole star spin mechanic in quite a fun way, so overall I like it. But I will say it's a bit basic at times. It's just a wild goose chase on a small planet where the ball on the monster's tail is the only thing that counts. But hey, maybe it will come back at some point and they will add some new things to him to make the fight more interesting. I mean, we already saw a different version in Super Mario Galaxy 2 that had completely different theming. Being able to use all kinds of fire abilities, like shooting fireballs that roll around the planet and igniting himself. Nintendo could certainly take that concept and expand on it. And now all of you know which piranha plant types are my favorites. Be sure to let me know in the comment section which ones you like the most. Also, be sure to subscribe, click the bell button, like this video, leave a comment, naughty or nice, and I will see you in the next one.